All right, guys. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Still joining.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Yeah. So, as you know, that we have gathered today to have Saleel sir speak about astrophotography. Just to give you a brief, Saleel is a very renowned and seasoned wildlife and astrophotographer. He has a long journey with the same, and he's also very active in organizing exhibitions, which is the most important is called Shrushti. It happens with collaboration with a educational organization also. So he's well traveled. If you look at his website, which I had mentioned in the announcement also, if you've seen his website, his images are from African subcontinent, Asian subcontinent, and he carries a lot of experience with all of that. And I think I should let Saleel sir only talk more about himself and introduce himself with his work and his story as a photographer. Let's just welcome him.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
To be very honest, I'm not an expert, so I will not be teaching today anything. So I would rather be just sharing my experiences, because I feel I started photography somewhere around 2013, and up to 2018, I think I have wasted 5 of my very precious years, since I did not know how exactly the workflow should be for photography. Later on, I attended one of the online sessions of very renowned photographer, Mr. Sudhir Shivram. So those who are into wildlife photography must be knowing him. So through Sudhir Shivram, I learned about the 4 pillars of photography, and that changed my entire photography journey later on. So I really feel that no one should waste those precious 2-3 months in figuring out how exactly you should go ahead and take pictures. So I really feel that I should share my experience so that someone can save their 2-3 precious years, and right from day one you can start taking better pictures with all the knowing all the 4 pillars of photography. So I think you all can just turn on your cameras, since there are limited participants currently in the meeting. I would really love to have this interactive session, so you all can keep your cameras and mics on, so that there won't be a chaos, I believe. So I'll be sharing my screen. And about the language, don't worry if you're not familiar with English or Hindi or Marathi. I am okay with any of these 3 languages, because I come from a Marathi medium, and earlier it used to be very difficult for me to interact in English. And because of the language barrier, I feel many of the times I didn't ask the queries or doubts to my fellow travelers or teachers. So don't worry about that. Agar Hindi mein पूछना hai, feel free to talk in Hindi. Marathi बोलायचं है, I'm totally okay with it. So don't worry about someone judging you because of the language barrier. Don't worry. Even I'm not really good with English, so don't worry about that. You can make sure you get all the queries cleared rather than worrying about who is judging you.
Yeah.
So just to start with, as I said earlier, I started photography in around 2013, where I used to shoot only reptiles. So I would like to tell you, show you some of the pictures that I've shot in the period of first 3 to 4 years. These are few of the recent images. So while on treks or on herping trips, we used to get all these reptiles and we used to shoot them. This is one of the very rare kind of snake. So just like humans, even snakes face this disease called as albinism. So our skin color is dependent on the concentration of melanin in our skin. So in case of deficiency in melanin, you get this albinism. So this is a albinism seen in Indian spectacled cobra. So I used to shoot only the reptiles in my initial days of photography. But after covering the few of the common or majority snakes found in Maharashtra, I slowly moved on to mammals, and that is how my journey in Indian jungles began. So I started visiting Tadoba, Ranthambore, Bandhavgarh, Pench, Corbett. So I covered all these places in search of these big cats, and mainly the tigers in India. And after that, I moved to African wildlife, which is probably one of the best areas in the world to see the wildlife. These are some of the pictures taken in Kenya. So while visiting all these parks and different jungles, I realized that since we are in wildlife areas, we are away from light and air pollution. And that is when you get to see a beautiful view of the night sky. So in all these trips, we used to see Milky Way or different constellations in the sky. But at that time, I didn't know how to exactly shoot this. But later on, one of my class friend, Umesh, he runs a club. I'm a part of that club called Aperture Astronomy Club in Thane. So we used to organize some stargazing sessions and basics of astronomy courses. That's how I learned about astrophotography, and I developed an interest in Milky Way photography, basically. So these are some of the recent pictures. You must have seen this in the poster. So this is the Milky Way taken in April last year from Run of Kutch. This is one from Naneghat, which is close to Pune, hardly around 80 to 100 kilometers from Pune. And these are my latest pictures from Ladakh. So this was taken in August last year. So the left one is shot with 70 mm and the right one is shot with 1424 mm at Kutch. So these are some of the latest pictures. Today, I will be talking more about my process as to how I finalize shooting time, how I finalize the locations, and how I make myself prepare before going out for the shoot. So as I said, I learned about these pillars of photography from Mr. Sudhir Shivram. So we will be talking today, or I'll be sharing my experience based on these 4 things. So first would be subject knowledge. Second is going to be equipment knowledge. Third is going to be shooting techniques, and fourth, post-processing. Before I start, I would just like to know how many of you are familiar with your cameras. Is there anyone who has absolutely no idea how a DSLR camera functions, or how what are the different modes in the camera? Okay, you can just answer in the chat box. That will make me understand how many of you are familiar with all these things, and we can discuss about in detail about all those factors later on. So is there anyone who is not familiar with the modes of camera, or the basic terms such as aperture, ISO? Okay, I think every one of you knows the basic terms. Great. So today we will be talking then mainly about how we can plan and how we can take the pictures of the Milky Way or astrophotography. Is there anyone who has shot the Milky Way earlier, or you have shot any star trails or night landscapes?
I did shot some star trails before.
Okay, great, great.
Saleel, I have also done Milky Way, as you are
Great,
aware, Milky
great.
Way, star trails, everything.
Right. Great. So we have few of the participants, they have an experience in shooting these pictures, and we have a mixed crowd. So let's discuss more about how we can plan these trips and what is essential for planning your Milky Way pictures. Sorry. Okay. So let's talk about the subject knowledge first. So let's assume I am a wildlife photographer. Like, I would like to tell you why subject knowledge is important. So let's consider that I'm a wildlife photographer and I want to shoot frogs. So
sorry,
if I want to shoot,
can
sorry?
you put it in the presentation mode? Play the PPT.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
So imagine if I'm a wildlife photographer. So I'm planning my trip specially for macro photography, and I want to shoot frogs. If I plan my trip somewhere around March and April, that is definitely not going to be a fruitful trip, because the frogs won't be active before it rains. So it is really essential to know your subject properly, to know at what time your subject will be active, at what time it will be most commonly seen, at what location it would be seen. That will make your photography experience much better, and you will not waste any time. It will be very essential to know your subject in probably all the genres of photography. Even if you are a wedding photographer and you don't know who are the close relatives of the family, you might miss on or miss out some of the important pictures of some of the important people in their family. So even if you are a wildlife photographer or food photographer or probably astrophotographer, it is very essential to know your subject properly. So today, since we are talking about astrophotography in particularly, in terms of subject knowledge, we will be talking about sky quality, moon phases, structure of the Milky Way, and the ideal season. So there is a particular season when the Milky Way will be seen in the night sky. So we will be talking about these 4 things primarily. So let's talk about the quality of sky first. So we currently, most of us are probably staying in Pune, Mumbai, and Bangalore. So if we look at the night sky in our crowded cities, you hardly get to see any stars. So for me, the sky quality here in Mumbai is very poor. It's pathetic. So I won't be able to see any faint objects in the night sky. But similarly, for someone who is staying outskirts, he'll say the sky quality here is best. So if it is compared with Mumbai, the sky quality is best in somewhere in the outskirts of Mumbai, Thane, Pune, or Bangalore. But it's a relative term. So how do we exactly determine the quality of the sky? For that, there's a person called John Bortle. He published a report in 2001 in Sky and Telescope magazine and gave us the Bortle scale. So this scale helps us understand the quality of the sky. So Bortle scale is a 9-pointer scale, as you can see here. So Bortle class 1 to class 9, depending on the color magnitude. So this Bortle scale basically tells you about the visibility of the celestial objects in the night sky. So if you can see here, in the Bortle scale 1, you can see the Milky Way, the most right part of the image. So here you can see the entire Milky Way properly up to class 4. So here till the Bortle class 4, you can see the structure of the Milky Way. But as we go on towards 5, 6, 7, 8, the quality of the sky starts deteriorating. And in the crowded cities like in the class 8 and 9, you won't be able to see any stars. So it is very essential to know the Bortle scale of the location you're visiting. So imagine you going or visiting somewhere and figuring out that the location is not really good. That will definitely waste your that entire night, and you won't get a chance to visit any other location. So it is very essential to know the Bortle scale of the location before you visit that location. How can you do that? So now this is how you can actually use the technology. There is a website called as Dark Side Finder, and there are many more websites available online. So you can just go to that website, put in the location where you're visiting. You'll see something like this. This is the light pollution map of the entire world. So as you can see here, dark. So the areas which are in dark colors, gray, black, and light gray, those are the ideal locations. Up to green, you can see the Milky Way. So if you're going out for shooting, particularly the Milky Way, you are okay with going somewhere around greenish region. But if you want to particularly shoot the Milky Way galaxy, it is better to try and find out the location which are darker. So we can just see why you are not able to see anything from Mumbai. As you can see here, so Mumbai, the central part is in 8 and 9 Bortle scale. Surrounding area is 7, 6, so up to 4. So there is nowhere around Mumbai you can see the Milky Way galaxy. But if you can just go to the coastal area in Konkan, so this is the part of probably Ratnagiri, Sindhudurga, and Chipurun, Khed, all those areas, you can see that in green and blue color. So यहाँ पे आपको definitely there are high chances of seeing the Milky Way because of the less light pollution. Of course, this site gives you the overall idea. There might be a cases कि जहाँ पे आप जा रहे हैं वहाँ पे ही कहीं एक बड़ा लैम्प पोस्ट वगैरह है तो आपको थोड़ा दूर जाना पड़ेगा. But this is just to give you an overall idea that okay, in this region somewhere I can definitely plan my trip. So similarly, you can check the light pollution or the Bortle scale of the locations around you and plan your astrophotography trip. This is the first region. So now we know the location which are ideal for shooting the Milky Way. So imagine if I just okay, so this is the light pollution map of Ladakh. I would like to show you that why most of us prefer Ladakh for shooting the Milky Way or the star trails. So this is the light pollution map of Ladakh. As you can see, most of the areas in Bortle scale 1 and 2, where there are high chances of seeing the Milky Way from almost anywhere except these few major cities. This must be Leh. So this is the light pollution map of our campsite, Naneghat, which is probably somewhere in between Pune and Mumbai. It's hardly 100 kilometers away from Pune, and similarly around 80 to 90 kilometers away from Thane. So this is Naneghat, where we organize our stargazing sessions and photography events. Even today we have one event there. There are likely chances to see the Milky Way in like very around early morning, around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But as we move on, like in March, April, the Milky Way will be seen from this particular location at around 10:30, 11 o'clock. So this is about the sky quality. So now we know the bottle scale of the location we are visiting. Depending on that, we know that, okay, fine, the Milky Way is going to be visible and we can actually plan our trip. The second factor, the second light polluting element in astrophotography is the moon. So since moon emits or it reflects a lot of sunlight, it is the second or the rather the largest light polluting element in the night sky. So after knowing the location, we must know the moon phase. If we plan a astrophotography trip somewhere when the moon is brighter, you will get something like this. So if you try to get those stars in your pictures, you'll see a lot of areas burnt out because of the moon, since it's the brightest element in the night sky. So before you plan, you after knowing the bottle scale, okay, fine. If the moon is not present, the Milky Way is going to be visible from that location. So the second point is you need to know the moon phases. So again, there are multiple websites where you can see the moon phases. So they are free. Even some apps like Stellarium, Telescopius, Date and Time, they give you the exact moon phases. Here you can see this is the old presentation. So you can see the date of April 2020. So here you can see there's a new moon on 23rd. So that means you can plan your astrophotography trip in this particular week. So from 21st to probably 27th, you can have a better dark night, and you can, if you plan a trip to better location, there are high chances of seeing the Milky Way. Then again, on the same sites, you can see the moonrise and moonset timings. So here you can see if we are planning for April 2020 and if we are planning for shooting on 27th. So here on, okay, 27th we don't have, on 18th, let's assume. So on 18th, the moon will be rising at 4:42. So that means, you know, the moon will be setting at 4:12. So yeah, you have a time till 4:42 to shoot the celestial objects. After that, the moon will be visible in the night sky and you won't be able to get any pictures of the stars. So this moonrise, moonset and moon phases gives you the window where you can actually plan and shoot. If you're shooting a star trails, if you're shooting a Milky Way, or you're shooting a time lapse, you can probably get an idea what is your shooting window. This is about the moon phase. And third is actually the Milky Way. So now we know that our location is ideal for seeing the Milky Way. Now we know the dates which we have planned are ideal for shooting the Milky Way. We know the moonrise, we know the moonset timings, and we know exactly the window when the Milky Way or when we can shoot the stars and the Milky Way. So let's talk more about the Milky Way. So how many of you have seen the Milky Way? You can just, if you have seen it, you can just answer it in the chat box. So is there anyone who has seen or photographed the Milky Way? If you have seen it with the naked eye, anywhere around Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore? We are actually a part of the Milky Way. Our solar system is a part of the Milky Way. So this is the artistic representation of the Milky Way. I don't want to go into technical details because even no one has seen the Milky Way. Since the Milky Way is so vast, we have never got a chance to go out of the Milky Way and take the actual picture. So we assume that the Milky Way is a spiral galaxy and which resembles more with our neighboring galaxy, that is the Andromeda galaxy. Since we can see the Andromeda galaxy, this is what scientists believe that the Milky Way might be looking like. We don't have any actual picture of the Milky Way. This is just the artistic representation of whatever data is available to us. So I don't want to get into technical details, but this is what we believe that the Milky Way must be looking like. And in terms of our solar system, so here, where you can see the Orion spur, that is the position of our solar system in the Milky Way. Again, technically, I'm not sure if this is how exactly it is, but this is the latest picture on the NASA website. This is again a graphical representation of what we believe the Milky Way must be. So there are, earlier it was believed that the Milky Way had only 2 arms. Now they believe there are 4 arms. two major and two minor arms. So our solar system is in Orion arm, and the one which we see in most of the pictures is the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way, which is the brighter arm and which contains the galactic center. So these are the two arms that are seen. So Orion arm is seen somewhere around probably October and November, and Sagittarius arm, which is the brighter arm, which contains the galactic center, that will be visible from February to up to probably August or September. After that, it rises with the sunrise, and since the sun is present in the night, during the day, we are not able to see the Milky Way. It is right there in the sky, but we are not able to see it. Similarly, on the full moon night, we might not be able to see the Milky Way even during the Milky Way season because of the light pollution. So let's talk about the season of the Milky Way. Now, when I say we are a part of the Milky Way, how many of you believe that the Milky Way will be visible during the particular season only? If we are part of the Milky Way, that must be present always in the night sky. But unfortunately, we don't get to see the Milky Way because whenever we are looking at the night sky, on each day, we are looking slightly different part of the Milky Way. So we see a slightly different part of the Milky Way every night. The sky shifts by 1 degree. I'll explain you how. So now everyone knows that the Earth keeps on revolving around its own axis and around the sun. So when Earth is at 12 o'clock position, we are looking at that particular part of the night sky. Probably from January to March, the Earth shifts its position, and in March, we are looking at again the different part of the night sky. Similarly, after the complete circle, we'll again be at the same position where we were in last year, and we'll have a same view at the same time of the year. So this is why the sky keeps on changing. Since the Earth is moving, we are looking at a different part of the sky every night. And since the Earth completes one rotation in 365 days and we have 360 degrees in a circle, this is why we say it changes by 1 degree. So every night at that particular time, you will notice that the sky has changed by 1 degree. Since the Earth completes the 360-degree rotation in 365 days. It's close to 1 degree per night. So this is why you get to see different part of the night sky. So when the Earth is at 12 o'clock position, you will get to see that particular part of the Milky Way. So this is the Orion arm, which is the fainter arm in which our solar system is present. It is seen between October to December. You can see this faint arm, as you can see in the patch. But the most exciting part of the Milky Way is the Sagittarius arm, which is seen between February to September. So this is actually the right season for interacting with you all about astrophotography, because you have almost 5 to 6 months now to go out and actually see and shoot the Milky Way. So this will be the right season. Even today, there are likely chances at around 4:30, 5 o'clock, if the horizon is clear, you can see the Milky Way on southeast direction at the horizon. Then, as I said, the sky will keep on changing by 1 degree. So that is why you'll, as the time passes in probably April or May, you'll see the Milky Way at around 11:30, 12 o'clock. So you have plenty of time to shoot the Milky Way actually in April and May. And unfortunately, in Mumbai, since it's the rainy season, after July, there are very unlikely chances that you will get to see the Milky Way. But in Leh, Ladakh or Kutch, where the clouds might not be a problem, you can still plan your astrophotography trips in June or July, where you can get to see the Milky Way at around 10 o'clock in the morning, at night, and right up to sunrise, you have the Milky Way present in the night sky. So let's talk about the location again. So how to locate the Milky Way? Milky Way will not be present in the entire sky. So there'll be a particular area where you will get to see the Milky Way in the night sky. So how do we locate that? Let's talk about the easier way first. So now we have various applications and websites available. So if you can download any of these websites, some of them are free, some of them are paid. So I use this Stellarium app. It was something around 200 rupees subscription for a lifetime, but it's totally worth it. And once you install that app, you just have to go on location settings, enable GPS settings. It takes the location of your device and it actually tells you what are the objects in front of you when you point your camera to the sky. So these are the basic settings in Stellarium. It's very, very easy to use application. So you just have to go to the settings, put the date and time, put the location. And as you can see here, I have set the location to Thane. So when I point my camera at the sky, this is what my Stellarium tells me. So these are the objects in front of me, and this is the position of the Milky Way. It also has a live view. Yeah. So if you move your camera in left, right, up, down direction, it tells you what are the objects in front of your camera. So it actually tells you where exactly the Milky Way is going to be, at what time it's going to be. You can change the timing. As you can see here at 4:36, this is the position of the Milky Way. You can just go back at 1:24. This is how the Milky Way is. At 4:30, it's going to be like this. So you can plan your astrophotography accordingly, or after knowing the position of the Milky Way. So if I'm more interested in shooting the panorama, I know at this particular time, the Milky Way is going to be like this in the night sky. So I can actually point my camera, or I can set up my time lapse in a way that at that particular time, the Milky Way is going to be seen in that particular area. So this is the easiest way. But just in case, if you don't have any devices or you don't have a connectivity, the plus point is this Stellarium doesn't require any connection or mobile network. So you can use it without any network as well. But just in case, if you don't have any devices with you, the much harder way, but a very foolproof way, is knowing the location of the Milky Way based on constellations. So I think many of us must be aware about what are the constellations. Constellations are nothing but just the landmarks of the sky. So we can say that. So just to figure out what part of the sky we are looking at, we have around 88 defined constellations, with help of which we can actually tell someone that, okay, I'm looking at this part of the sky. So 88 constellations are too much for us to remember. If we are mainly talking about Milky Way photography, the one which we are interested in is just the Scorpion constellations. So these are some of the constellations, this Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. So Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, that gives you the idea about the pole star. So this one, the brightest one, which is the end of the Ursa Minor, is the pole star. So this is how you can locate the north in any particular area. I have one article also on this. I'll definitely share that with you. If possible, we can share it with all the students. So how they can actually determine true north in without any help of any devices. And for us, we have to just remember the Scorpion constellation if we are mainly into Milky Way photography. So this is going to help us locate the position of the Milky Way. So this is the Scorpion constellation, and this is the Milky Way. I'll show you one more picture which will give you an idea. So this is the Orion Scorpion constellation, and that's the Milky Way galaxy. So once you have located the Orion constellation, you know that, okay, fine, my Milky Way is going to be visible somewhere here. So as you can see, the upper stars, which are the claws of the Scorpion, those will be rising before the Milky Way. And there's the brightest star called as Antares, that will definitely rise before the Milky Way. So by looking at the Antares, you can determine from where the Milky Way is going to rise, and you can prepare your frames that way. You can set up the time lapse considering the position of the Milky Way that will be visible. So far about subject knowledge, we have covered the quality of the sky. We have covered about the moon phases. We talked about moonset, moonrise timings. We talked about the season of the Milky Way. So far we know from which location, on what date, at what time, in which direction the Milky Way will be visible. So let's talk about our second topic, that is equipment knowledge. Before I go on the equipment knowledge, I would like to ask if you have any queries about whatever we discussed so far. So I can just answer those queries and we can move on to the second part, that is equipment knowledge. If you have any queries, feel free to just unmute yourself, or if that is allowed, or you can just put that in the chat box. I'll just give you 2 minutes time. Otherwise, we can go ahead with the equipment knowledge.
Yeah, so the unmute setting is on for everybody.
Yes.
If you want to ask questions, I'll rather begin. So there were these two arms that you talk about the Milky Way just now, you know.
Yes.
So do you mean that the Milky Way that we see generally in the month of like September, and then later
Yes.
on in February, March.
Yes.
We see different parts of it.
Yes, we see different parts of the Milky Way.
All right.
I'll show you
Okay.
in this slide. I can show you. Just a minute. I think I'm not sharing the screen. Okay. So let's go to keynote. So this is the Milky Way. So when the Earth is facing upward, like let's assume that the Earth is in 12 o'clock position here, we are
Yeah.
looking at this part of the Milky Way. But at the same time, when the Earth completes that, let's say assume 180 degrees, we are looking at the part which is below Earth. So in those different seasons, we are looking at a different part of the Milky Way. It's the same Milky Way, but it has those 4 arms. Probably in February to March, we are looking at the arm which is brighter, that is the top one, Sagittarius arm. And in October, November, we are looking at the Orion arm, which is lesser brighter and which doesn't contain the galactic center. Since we are looking at the part which is below, we don't get to see that galactic center, which is the brightest part of the Milky Way.
Okay.
That is why if you shoot the Orion arm, it will be visible something like this. So there's no galactic center is present in this picture. But whereas if you shoot somewhere between February to September, the central part is the galactic center where it will be brightest.
Which one comes out better as pictures? I
Of course,
feel that
Sagittarius.
the
So that is why we wait for February. Yes. I love
Alright,
shooting these
alright.
Sagittarius.
Questions?
Even this photo is not mine. This is shot by Umesh Gude. I haven't shot any picture of the Orion arm so far. I'm not interested in shooting that arm. So I haven't shot that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw somebody raise a hand. Please
Yeah,
unmute
someone has
yourself.
raised
If
their
you can't unmute, just let me know. I'll make you. I'll
Don't
help
worry
you
about
unmute
the
yourself.
language barrier. I'm okay with
Yeah.
Hindi, English, Marathi. So कोणत्याही भाषेत तुम्हाला प्रश्न विचारायचे तर make sure that you get your queries solved. So it's not important about someone judging you for your language. Don't worry. मी 1ली ते 10वी पूर्ण मराठीत शिकलोय. विज्ञान, गणित. So I'm totally fine with Marathi and Hindi. No worries.
Yeah.
I think we don't have any questions. We can just go ahead with the.
Saleel, just one query I have.
Yes.
You mentioned the Andromeda galaxy.
Yes.
So regarding the Andromeda, where do we usually see Andromeda? In which cases we will be able to see?
Andromeda will be visible from any location close to bottle scale 4. Even Naneghat, Junnar, Andromeda disel. So आता Andromeda will be on the horizon on northeast la disel, I think. Sakai.
Okay.
So similarly, so we have that's a really interesting question. So I would just like to tell you how we can locate the particular objects in the night sky. I'll share my screen. So this is the website that I use, Stellarium. So here, the same app that I showed you, they also have a web-based website. So this is the website. This is the desktop version of Stellarium. So here I can put the location to Thane, where I am currently. So if I want to go out and take pictures to
Saleel, screen sharing on नाही झालं. Screen sharing on नाही झालं.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry. So this is the Stellarium website. It has a desktop mode as well. So Stellarium and Telescope, yes, these are the two apps that two websites that I use whenever I plan my astrophotography trips. So as Alok sir said, so he wants to see the Andromeda. So all these objects have a catalog numbers. So there was a scientist called Messier who gave these Messier catalog. So for Andromeda is M31, or you can just put Andromeda galaxy here. So if you put Andromeda galaxy, M31, okay, and if you click on that, it tells you the position of the Andromeda at the time that we have selected. So let's assume now I go to current time. Okay, and today evening at around 10 o'clock. Okay, so this will be the position of the Andromeda galaxy at 10 o'clock. This is the Andromeda galaxy. You can just zoom in and see how exactly it looks. These are the neighboring or rather satellite galaxies to Andromeda galaxy. So this is how the Andromeda galaxy would be visible in the night sky. If you want to check where is the Jupiter, you can just put that here, Jupiter planet. It tells you the position of the Jupiter. Whichever objects you want. As I said, I am planning to shoot Orion Nebula today. So if I click on Orion Nebula, this is where the Orion Nebula will be visible and at this time. So I can check that, I can change the dates. You can have a look at this part where you can see as I go on changing the dates, the color is changing. We are more interested in seeing the darkish side. So this is the time when the moon will be absent in the night sky, and this is the ideal time for shooting the Milky Way and the moon. So here is the position of the Milky Way at 29th June at 10 o'clock. So you can just change the timing and get an idea of how exactly the Milky Way will be visible at this particular location and plan your astrophotography trips. So this is stellarium-web.org. It's a free website. The web version is free. I think app is around 200 or 300 rupees, not more than that. So it's definitely worth it, worth the investment.
Thanks, Saleel.
So can we move ahead, or you have any questions?
Saleel,
Yes.
this is Mohan Chagaonkar. I wanted
Yes.
to ask you one thing.
Yes.
All these constellations and galaxies, these things, are they visible by naked eyes? Even
Yes.
the
Again,
appropriate conditions.
yes, definitely. I'll tell you. So there's a term, as I said, the brightness will be a relative term. If I say that the sky quality is good here, so for someone who stays in Ladakh, that might not be good. So it's a relative term. So for that, we need to have something to measure the brightness of that particular object. So again, we have, so all these objects have a magnitude. So let's assume now I'm shooting the Orion Nebula. Let's go to Orion Nebula. Let's change the timings.
Saleel, your screen is not visible.
Oh, sorry. I'll just keep this on forever. So that, okay. So let's go to Orion and change the timing. Orion won't be visible in June. So let's go to, it's called as winter constellation. So that's how people used to confirm that it's a winter season. So when they used to see the Orion Nebula. So let's zoom in. This is the Orion Nebula. Now, if I want to check whether the Orion Nebula will be visible by the naked eye, for that, we need to check the magnitude. So every object has the magnitude. The lower the magnitude, the brighter the element is. So now let's go to moon. See here, the magnitude of Orion Nebula is 4.59. For moon, it will be, the magnitude is minus 10.31. That is the brightest element in the night sky. So lower the magnitude, brighter is the element. So we, I think for the naked eye, we get to see somewhere around 4 to 5 magnitude. So any object which has a magnitude up to 4 will be visible with the naked eye. In telescopius, you have that option. In telescopius, if I'm planning my astrophotography trip, I can put, these are some of the saved locations where I frequently visit for astrophotography. So if I put here location layer, I can select at what time the object should be visible. I can set the apparent magnitude as well. That okay, now since I'm going out for observation, I won't be able to see anything below 4. So I can just put it 4 to 4. So it will only show me the objects which has the magnitude lesser than 4 number. That will be, they'll be brighter, so that I can determine these are the objects, those will be visible to the naked eye. Those objects which are not or having a greater magnitude might not be visible to the naked eye. So this is how you can determine which are objects which would be visible to the naked eye when you are planning any observational trip. Do we have any questions, or we can just go ahead?
Saleel, did you take any picture of Andromeda galaxy?
Andromeda I've shot, but I haven't processed it yet. So I don't have a ready picture of it. I have shot Orion Nebula. I can show you the picture of Orion Nebula. So this is the Orion Nebula.
Okay.
This was shot in November 2021. This was shot with 7200 mm. For all these objects, you need some special equipments called as sky trackers. So those are the motors which helps your camera rotate in exactly the opposite direction. So since our Earth is moving or it is revolving, so if we take longer exposures, we get trailing in our images. So this is the image of a star trails. So this is nothing but the displacement of that star during the duration when the picture was shot. So this is around say 2 hours data. So in 2 hours, this particular brightest star has moved from this location to this. So to avoid this, you need some special equipments called as Equatorial Mounts, or they call it tracker, which tracks the night sky. So our Earth's rotational axis is very close to the Polaris. That is why we get that Polaris is always seen at one particular location, since the Earth rotational axis collides very closely to the Polaris. So we can calibrate our tracker and make it move exactly in opposite direction, but with exactly the speed of Earth. So that's why all those stars become stationary for the camera, and you can shoot longer exposures. So this is around 20 minutes exposure of Orion Nebula, shot with 70-200 mm. There's one more nebula seen here. It's called as Running Man Nebula. So this was the old one. I'm hoping to shoot this again tonight, Orion Nebula. So can we move ahead, or we have any questions for any of the topics that we discussed so far? If not, we'll just go ahead with equipment knowledge. So as I mentioned, since we will be shooting different type of images when it comes to astrophotography, these are some of the frequently, or these are some of the most essential equipment that you should be carrying. So let's assume if I am just shooting only the star trails, that is the easiest form of astrophotography, I believe. You only need any basic kit lens would do, because you don't have a limitation of the shutter speed. You can shoot for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes long, because at the end you are going to just stack all those images and get the better star trails. So you don't have any limitations on shutter speed. You don't have any limitations on your ISO. So you can just bump that, or you can just keep it lower, since we are collecting the data for 2 to 3 minutes. So for star trails, the basic requirement is a battery grip, because you will be shooting for a longer time. So you should have a battery grip for your camera, because at night when you're shooting, the temperature is low and your battery gets drained comparatively faster than any other time. So you should have an intervalometer, which will keep on taking pictures after particular intervals. That is very essential for taking star trails. Imagine if I'm shooting a picture and suddenly my camera stops working, there will be gaps seen in my star trail images. I don't want that to happen. I want that entire star trails to look properly in my images. So for that, you need a good intervalometer. You need a battery grip. So you must have an extra battery, because during the pictures, you cannot stop in between and change the batteries. So it's better to have either the continuous power supply or the battery grip. If you're shooting the Milky Way, one of the most essential thing is having a wide angle lens, because Milky Way will be spreaded in the night sky. So the wider the better. So you must have a wide lens. So I have also shot images with 18 mm on a crop sensor. That's not an issue. But if you have a wide angle lens, that will always be an advantage. And again, since we will be shooting for around 15 to 20 seconds each photo, we must have a tripod, so that our camera doesn't move in between the pictures. And for deep sky, as I mentioned, the Orion Nebula, Andromeda Galaxy, and all the other objects in our solar system, for that we need a telephoto lens, since those objects are far away. We need wide angle for the Milky Way if we are tracking the Milky Way. And as I mentioned about the Equatorial Mount, that is the tracker which tracks the night sky. You must have that, and a shutter remote to control your shutters. So these are the basic equipments that you need to depending on the type of images that you're planning. I think I have one tracker. I would just like to show you how exactly it works. Just a minute. Is this visible to all? So this is the tracker that I used to use. So this is the sky watcher. So this goes on your tripod. I'll stop sharing the screen so that. Okay. So this is the tracker. So it has different modes. So I can change the modes to probably a time-lapse mode, so it changes the timing accordingly. It also has a connectivity option with my mobile phone, so I can set the rotational time. So this is where my camera is mounted. Depending on the latitude, I can just tilt it. I can point it towards Polaris. I can then set up my tracker, and then it will keep on rotating my camera like this with the same speed that of Earth's rotational speed. So that is why I can shoot longer exposure without having any trailing in my images. So this is the one that I have. I have one more compact tracker that I have recently bought. That is what I'm going to try tonight if I get a chance. So this is what you need for deep sky photography. It's the like very essential equipment if you are shooting deep sky or if you are planning to track the images. So what is the advantage of using such a bulky equipment is, since you don't have you don't have to compromise on shutter speed, you can shoot with lower ISO and you can have less noisy images when you're shooting with trackers. Plus you can stack those images for better maybe pixel to noise ratio and for better detailing. So this someone is asking how much this tracker costs. So again, the original one from Skywatcher, it costs around 500. So I have a very bad habit of checking all these equipments again and again. So there was some flash sale and I got it at around $307 from US. So in India, it costs around 78,000 or something. And the compact one, which only handles the payload capacity of up to 5 kg, that costs around 25,000. So rather than buying any expensive camera which has a better noise reduction, I prefer investing on the Sky Tracker, which helps you take similar images with the current camera and current lens that you're using. Yeah. What kind of telephoto lens someone is asking? So far, I've shot with only 70-200 mm. So Andromeda Galaxy, Orion Nebula, I've shot deep sky images. For that, I think 70-200 was the decent enough. I've never tried shooting with super telephoto lenses like 500-600 because I also have a limitation of payload capacity of this particular equipment. So it can handle payload capacity of up to 5 kilo only. So this has some counterweight balance as well. Then your ball head, that everything gets very heavy. So I haven't tried shooting with any super telephoto lens. So far I've shot with 70-200 on a crop sensor. So effective focal length was somewhere around 200 plus into 1.5. So close to 300 mm. So that is the longest focal length I've shot with. Any questions on the equipments, or we can go ahead with few of the technical part of what exactly is different than shooting wildlife or wedding or food photography. So if we get a chance to have any offline session, I would really like to show you all how these things work. And I'm really looking forward if we can meet somebody in person where I can actually show you all the setup and how the actual tracker works. Okay. So I think we don't have any questions on equipments and we can go ahead. There are none in the chat box. Okay. Okay, so next part, so far we have covered, we talked about subject knowledge, we talked about equipment knowledge. So the next is shooting techniques. Again, as I said, you all are familiar with cameras. So let's not waste our time talking about more of the technical terms. So you all know what is ISO. So more ISO gives you more noisy images. So you need to determine what is the optimum ISO that you can like bump up to for your astro pictures. But there are again methods like stacking, or now again there are multiple softwares which helps you reduce the noise. So you can just determine that. So if you're shooting with lower ISOs, you will have a much clearer image. If you're shooting with higher ISOs, you will have a noisy image. And since noise is generally seen in shadow areas and astro is what exactly we are shooting, so there will be a lot of noise in your images. So you need to figure out what is the optimum noise that you can, optimum ISO that you can bump your ISO up to.
Saleel, can we just go full screen, please? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So again, aperture, as you all know, aperture is the opening of the lens. So if you open it wide enough, you'll see you'll get a lot of light hitting your sensor and you get better images. So again, by controlling the aperture, you can control the light hitting the sensors and you can have a better image. So let's also the aperture, the depth of field also depends on your aperture. So since in wildlife we are shooting the landscape images, or probably we are shooting with even though we are shooting with f2.8 or probably 4, we get everything in focus because of the hyperfocal distance of that particular lens. So this is again one more picture. So you have all those hyperfocal distance calculators where you can actually shoot the hyperfocal distance of your lens, where you can determine if I focus on that particular distance, the object in infinity will also be in focus. So now if I'm shooting with D500 at 11 mm at aperture 2.8 and my subjective distance is 8 feet, my hyperfocal distance is 7.5 feet. That simply means anything above 7 feet will also be in focus up to infinity. So my depth of field is infinity. So you have all these depth of field calculators where you can actually calculate the depth of field and the hyperfocal distance of the particular lens. You just have to put in the camera you're using, the focal length at which you're shooting, and the aperture. Depending on that, it will give you this chart. So with this chart, you get to know that, okay, fine, if I focus on this object which is 7.5 feet away from me, I'll also get the object in infinity at focus. So similarly, that's what I use in this particular image. I stayed away 7 feet from the object. That gave me my object also is in proper focus and the Milky Way is also in decent focused. So I don't have to actually do the focus tracking if you calculate the hyperfocal distance and the infinity focusing limit of your lens. So these all are available online. I'll share all the links to these websites later on. So you can just pass it on to all the participants. And lastly, shutter speed. Yes, I would like to take your time on shutter speed a bit, because unfortunately here we cannot, although our cameras support shooting for 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes or probably for a day. Unfortunately, if we are not shooting with an equatorial mount, we have to limit our shutter speed. As I said, if we don't limit our shutter speed, this is what we are going to get. So our Milky Way picture would look something like this if I go on increasing the shutter speed to have maximum light fall on the or hit on the sensor. To avoid the trailing, I need to finalize the shutter speed to avoid this trailing. And how do I do that? I use the rule of 500. It's very simple. So it is generally considered, sometimes they say it's safer to consider 600 rule or 500. You just have to divide 500 with the focal length you're shooting with. So if you assume we are shooting on a 16 mm focal length on a full frame body, I'll just divide 500 by 16. That gives me 31.25. So 31.25 is the maximum shutter speed that I can keep in my camera to avoid the trailing. As simple as that. So if you're shooting with 500 mm, let's assume you have just 1 second exposure. That's it. More than that, you are getting trailing in your eyes. If you're shooting with 50 mm, you can have maximum shutter speed of 10 seconds to avoid trailing. If you shoot something, this is shot with I think 11 mm only. When I keep shutter speed of 15 seconds, I get something like this. But when I keep a shutter speed of more than 15 seconds or more than the value that we get by dividing the focal length by 500, if we have shutter speed longer than that, the trailing is going to be very much visible in all your pictures. So this is one of the most essential thing to figure out. So if you're planning to shoot the Milky Way, if you're shooting star trails, that's not an issue. That's rather going to make your task easier. You don't have to process multiple images. You can just keep shutter speed for 2 minutes and have trailing in your images and just tag them. But if you're shooting particularly the Milky Way, you must consider this 500 rule and shoot within that shutter speed to avoid trailing. Otherwise, all your images will look something like this. So this is one of the most important thing while shooting the Milky Way that you should be considering. If you have a tracker, you don't need to worry about this. You can shoot for 2 to 3 minutes. That's not an issue. And those who are using crop sensor cameras, make sure to add your crop factor as well. So this is for full frame body. If I'm shooting with 10 mm on a crop sensor body, For Nikon, it's 1.5. For Canon, I believe it's 1.4 or 1.6. I'm not sure. So you have to multiply that crop sensor as well. So your effective focal length should be, let's say if it is 1.5, 10 into 1.5. So your effective length, focal length would be 15. So you have to divide 500 by 15 and not by 10 if you're using a crop sensor. If it's a full frame body, you can divide it by 10. Am I clear? So any doubts on rule of 500? Or we can go ahead. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any queries. Otherwise, we'll just move ahead. Are we in time? Okay. 12:30. So again, exposure triangle, I'm sure you all must be knowing that this is how the things are correlated to each other. If you lower the shutter speed, you're getting more light. But if you, at the same time, the movement will not be freezed in your images. If you bump up the ISO, you're going to see more light coming in, but at the same time, it also adds the noise to your images. And for aperture, as you go on increasing the aperture value, you are increasing the depth of field, but at the same time, it also reduces the light hitting the sensor. So that's it about the actual shooting techniques. And so we have covered about subject knowledge. We know what equipment we are carrying. We know how we are shooting. So now let's assume I'm planning an astrophotography trip tomorrow. I will first check the light pollution map. Depending on that, I know which location I'm supposed to visit. Then I'll check the Moonrise, Moonset timings. That gives me the exact window where I can shoot the Milky Way. Then I'll check the equipment that I'm carrying. If I have an equatorial mount, I'll carry that. I'll check the focal length at which I'm shooting. I'll calculate all those depth of fields. I know at what shutter speed I want to capture those pictures. With this, I can somehow reach this result. So this is what the actual image shot in Nubra was. And that's where our fourth element or the fourth important pillar of photography comes in. That is the post-processing. So this is the as shot image. And this is what I got after just adjusting few sliders. So that tells you the importance of post-processing. So many of us, or rather the layman, gets confused between editing and processing. So when we are processing images, we are not manipulating anything. We are just extracting the details captured by our camera. So that is the power of our raw files. So all these details are already there in the picture. We are just adjusting few sliders and extracting all those details. So that is why post-processing is equally important after knowing all these three pillars. So once we have shot those pictures, it is equally important to process those pictures. I'm sure you all must be aware about the raw files and what exactly the raw files are. So, or how you can extract all those details from the raw files. So I always insist shooting raw files for astrophotography, as you have to do a lot of adjustment after you are done with processing. For stills, you can just adjust these basic sliders. For deep sky photography, you have to stack those images, as I said. So you have data of around 2 to 3 hours, and then you have to stack that data. And stacking for multiple reasons, like one is for noise reduction, second is to improve same noise to pixel to noise data to get more visibility of the faintly seen object. So that is why this is one of the most important thing. This is just for the comparison. So on the right side, you can see the as shot file, raw file, and this is the left side is what you can actually extract from the same file. This is shot with Nikon D500mm camera. It's a crop sensor camera shot with Tokina 1120mm. So this is the power of post-processing, or this is how you can extract the details from the shot file. So if you're not really good with processing, you'll end up showing something like it is seen on the right side of the image. But if you know how you can process those images, you'll end up showing something like this. So with this, I think I've covered about the subject knowledge in terms of Milky Way photography, equipment knowledge, about the shooting techniques, and about post-processing. So I just leave it the session for you to ask any queries if you have. So we can probably have a better understanding about the queries that you have rather than me showing you just the pictures. So I think it's open for everyone, and you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask me whatever questions or queries you have. I would also like to show you my one of the sheets that I generally prepare before I go out for shooting. I'll just share the screen. As I said, I just said, like, more you practice in, more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in combat. So this is what I generally do before I plan my trips. So this is again the old one. So on 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th December, I planned a trip to location near Dhule, village called as Dondaisa. So this is how I chalk down all the details. So you get everything online available. So this is how you get to know about the astronomical sunrise is at what time, the nautical sunrise is at what time, civil sunrise, and this is the actual sunrise when the sun will be visible on the horizon. So then you have the moonrise, moon phases. Depending on this, you get a clear idea as to what will be your shooting window. So now on day one, as my targets were Jupiter, Saturn, Andromeda Galaxy, North American Nebula, and Heart and Soul Nebula. So this is how I plan my trips. So now I know the Jupiter will be rising at 10 p.m. It will set at 2015. So I know I have time up to 20 or like 8 o'clock only. So 7:30 to 8, I was planning to shoot the Jupiter. I know at what degree it will be visible, at what time it is visible, and with what equipment I'll be shooting. Unfortunately, it was too cloudy on this trip. I couldn't take out my camera on any of these dates. But this is generally what I do before I go out for shooting. This is what I generally plan. This is how I generally plan my trips. So you have everything. So you clearly know what time is the shooting time. So here, like, the Moonset is at 20:39, but on the same during the same trip on 20th December, the Moonset was at 11:30. So there's no point going out in field at 8 o'clock. So this is how you can plan your photography trips, and you can rather save your efforts, and you won't waste any nights if you plan something like this way. Every data is available online through various websites. You can just use that website and get an advantage of technology for planning better for your pictures.
Saleel, we have few questions in the chat box.
Yes, sure. Are they in the chat box? I'll just open that.
Yeah. One is is it possible to take Milky Way photos and astrophotography from hill station?
Definitely, yes, it will be possible. But again, you need to consider a few points. Like if the hill station is somewhere like Mahabaleshwar, or you're planning for Mathiran, that is going to be foggy totally. So that's not possible. You have to, let's assume, like, even Ladakh can be considered as a hill station, but that's a high altitude desert. So any locations which don't have any, what I'll say, humidity factor is less, or the dew point is above the temperature, you can definitely plan your astrophotography from those locations. Just make sure you check the light pollution of that particular area, because most of the hill stations are the tourist attractions. So there are going to be a lot of lights. So I generally prefer going to locations like Mathiran, Mahabaleshwar, and all those nearby locations. If it is lesser known hill station, and if it is the ideal season, like if you plan in summer, definitely that would always be an advantage on visiting the hill stations.
And another one is from Sohail. So he is asking, can you share more details about the camp in Nanegat and how they can join you for the same?
Definitely. So you can get all the details on my website, which is www.saleelgharpure.com. We also have an Instagram account, Amateur Astronomy Club. You can get details about all our camps on that. Also on my website, you can get details of all the stargazing trips and wildlife photography trips. So I'm more into wildlife and astrophotography, and I keep on posting all the updates on my Instagram and Facebook account. So you can follow me on Instagram, or you can just check all the details on my website, that is saleelgharpure.com. And the campsite, it's available on Google Map as well. It's by the name of Hotel Current. So in Nanegat, there are multiple homestays available. So you can just go to any of this. Even our group is there today as well, and it was there on last weekend as well. So you can just ask for Subhash Kaka or Saleel, so they'll just guide you. So not to worry. You'll see a lot of tents there if you visit Nanigarh. So we have set up around 15 to 20 tents there. We have a campsite. You'll see 3 to 4 telescopes. So we have 8-inch, 6-inch, 4-inch telescopes. So you can just go to Nanigarh and ask anyone, where is Subhash Adhari or where is Saleel? They'll guide you.
Salil, I have a question.
Yes.
To even begin with astrophotography and to join one of your workshops,
Yes.
what would be the basic equipment required when we talk about students who have mostly crop senses to start with? The ones in the last semester still have full frames and all that.
Okay.
So when we go for a workshop like yours, what is the
Yes.
equipment?
To be honest, there is no particular requirement of the equipment. I'll just show you one picture. This is shot with 1855 mm and Nikon D5200, this one. So even with a very basic camera, you can shoot the Milky Way. So I would say the basic requirement would just be any wide angle lens, probably a Tokina and Tamron, they have good reasonable lenses. Plus in Pune, they have there's a shop called Primes and Zooms. They give lenses on rental. So we have a tie-up with them. They are one of our sponsors for Srushti exhibition. So they, for all our trips, they provide rental services with 10% discount to the participant. So you can rent any wide angle lens. I would suggest for crop sensor, Tokina 1116 or 1120 mm lens would be good. Then any basic camera would also do, because now we have a lot of different methods to reduce the noise in your images. You can stack those images. So you don't really need any fancy equipment. Any basic equipment, even a Nikon 5200, 5100 with 1855 mm would be ideal to shoot the Milky Way. But if it is a tour like Ladakh, where we are shooting for 8 to 10 nights, I recommend you getting decent equipment on the rent, because in just first few days or first probably couple of days, you get to know how exactly you're going to shoot. And then again, you're shooting with a basic camera doesn't make sense. So for longer trips, I recommend renting full frame cameras with something like 24 mm or 24-70 mm lenses. 35 mm is also a good choice for the Milky Way. 50 mm 1.8 lens, or there are some manual focus lenses. Again, since we are in astrophotography, nothing is moving fast. We have plenty of time. So you don't actually need all those autofocus fancy lenses. Samyang 14 mm manual focus lens is what I have used for first 3 years. So that's decent enough. You can just manually put it on infinity mode, and after that, you don't have to touch it. So any basic lens that costs around not more than 1500 rupees per day rent. So you can rent those lenses. For trips like Ladakh, Kutch, I recommend renting decent equipment. But for any one-day trips, this decent equipment is enough to start your astrophotography journey. Once you know how you're taking pictures, how you can do better, then probably you can go ahead and buy the full frame camera. So I've been shooting since 2013, and last year only I bought a full frame camera. So far I've been shooting with D500. So last year I bought D850 finally. So for the astrophotography only. But otherwise I was okay with crop sensor camera.
And
even with the cell phones, with advanced cell phones, you can take the picture of the Milky Way. So I've shot with OnePlus 7 or something, plus Oppo One mobiles. There are a few models. Any camera for that matter, which has a manual mode where you can capture light for 30 seconds. If you're on a class 3, class 4 location, you can shoot the Milky Way. That won't be a problem.
all right. And the accessories that you had shown, those motorized, which helps you to, yeah. So I am sure they are not available. Are they even available on rental basis? So when somebody is getting,
they might not be available. Actually, getting one in India itself is a task. So I got one from US with someone of my relative while he was coming. Because of the higher taxes, the value here in India is like bumped up to anything. So this costed me around 28,000. But in India, if I plan to buy it, it's costing me around 74 to 75,000. But there's one more company called as Move Shoot Move. I bought that compact this equatorial mount from them. That costed me around 25,000. So that is available. So you can buy that. Because anyway, if you're planning to buy a better camera or a wider lens or a faster lens like 2.8, that is going to cost you around 35,000. So instead of that, you can invest on the tracker where you can shoot with the same camera and you have that additional advantage of longer shutter speed, is what I believe.
Okay. There are a few questions about Nanighat camp again.
Yes.
You can just look into the chat box.
So we don't need to have any existing equipment and can use the one available at your camp. At Nanighat, we have telescopes available. We haven't kept any cameras there. So if you have cameras, we have an attachment rings. We can just, on the eyepiece of the telescope, you can attach your camera. So if you have camera, you don't need anything. So telescopes and all we provide. So you don't, if you're going there for just the observation, you don't need to carry anything. But if you're going out for photography, we do have one of or two volunteers who will guide you for shooting the Milky Way, will guide you for shooting the star trails. So for that, you need to carry your camera. Telescope, you need not carry. We have 6 telescopes installed at Nanighat. Somebody is asking, it's a Kodai canal in Tamil Nadu state. It's maximum in a cloudy mood. Yes, again, since it's cloudy, you might not get to see the Milky Way there. So you need to find out the locations which are good for shooting the Milky Way or observing the Milky Way, which will give you more cloudless nights. So something in probably Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Leh Ladakh side. Again, in Leh, the weather is not predictable at all. So whenever you're going far away, make sure you have plenty of time, plenty of extra buffer days with you, so that you can, even if 1 or 2 nights gets wasted, you still have another opportunity to shoot from the same location.
Salil, we've got some of our students also in the participants
Yes.
list, and we'd mentioned about Srushti. How can students even exhibit
Yes.
wildlife and how can they?
Sure,
do
yeah.
something like
I
that?
would like to tell you about Srushti, like how it actually started.
Yeah.
So as I said, I started shooting reptiles in 2013. And initially up to 2015-16, we just kept on visiting different jungles around Mumbai, in Mumbai metropolitan region like Matheran, then some areas near RA colony and all. So we used to see a lot of snakes. And whenever for shooting the reptiles, I came in contact with few of the rescue organizations which do rescue works for the animals and mainly reptiles. Whenever we used to go out on any rescues, the first question we used to get asked is it an anaconda or is it a king cobra or something like that? So that's where we realized that people are well aware about the species which are found thousands of kilometers away, but they have no idea what is in their backyard. So that was the whole idea of putting up the first exhibition. So 13 of us, we came together and we had an exhibition in Thane Kala Bhavan, in collaboration with Thane Municipal Corporation. And that was probably the first exhibition in Mumbai which had only reptile images. So we displayed around 300 reptile images, and we gave some detailed information about like where the snakes can be found, how are they venomous, non-venomous, what would be the first aid, and what in case if you find any reptiles, what are you supposed to do. So after that, we got really nice response from all the citizens and mostly the people living in metros, because they are not really aware about all these animals. And that's how they actually encouraged us for having more and more exhibitions. So this year we completed 8th year for Srushti. So we have been conducting these exhibitions in collaboration with Thane Municipal Corporation and Forest Department of Maharashtra. They have been a great support to all these events. So the main aim was to let people know the species that are found in their backyard. Like in Pune, the fine-throated lizards were not really the thing which were common. So people didn't know that the fine-throated lizards are found in Pune. Although the people used to visit those locations for morning walks for like a couple of decades, they're going there, but they were not aware that such kind of beautiful lizards are there. So the whole idea of Srushti was, so it was one is to provide the platform to young photographers, because I haven't learned photography anywhere. So when I tried participating in few exhibitions or probably the sending few images to magazines, I realized many of the exhibitions are limited to the members of that particular organizations. So there was no exhibition which was open to all. So that's why we started in 2013, and we just asked for anyone who is like wants to showcase their work, you can just submit your pictures. If they are good enough, we will definitely exhibit them, irrespective of you being our member or not. We do not have any membership or anything like that. Anyone can be a part of Team Srushti, where we mainly aim to provide a platform to young photographers to reach the masses. And the second rather objective is to aware people about the herpetofaunal biodiversity of our planet. So we generally organize these events in October. 1st to 7th October is considered as Wildlife Week in India. So we used to organize these exhibitions during that time. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we are not getting any permissions to have the physical exhibition. So that's why we published a coffee table book of the short listed 100 images last year. And this year also we are planning to do the same. Hopefully next year we'll again have a physical exhibition in Thane and Pune. So we are planning for the same exhibition at 2 different locations. And anyone can participate in Srushti through our website, that is srushtiexhibition.in, www.srushtiexhibition.in. We will be soon coming up with the new theme, and I would like to announce the theme on occasion of this session. So the next theme for the Srushti photography competition is going to be Golden Hour. So any images shot during Golden Hour will be the theme for the session. And again, similarly, if we get a permission for physical exhibition, those images will be shot, exhibited in Thane Kala Bhavan. That's a 3-floored art gallery. Alok sir has been a part of our event. He has supported us really well. Yes. So even he can share his experience. So because of the people like Alok sir, we get encouragement that, okay, fine, the people are supporting us and let's take it to the next level. So it's basically the support from all the fellow photographers and the visitors who have shown faith in us and have encouraged photographers who haven't actually learned photography anywhere, but are really doing a great job learning on their own. So this is how exactly the Srushti exhibition works. There's no membership, nothing. You can just go to a website, enroll for the contest, you can submit your images. Once shortlisted, your images will be exhibited in our exhibitions.
Any questions, anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So, hi, sir. So, hi, sir. I'm from Bangalore, actually. So,
Okay.
So I have been shooting this, like, I have been visiting the nearby places like this Kandagiri, like it's a hilly region. So I have seen photographers using, like mounting the telescope onto their lenses,
Right.
and they have been shooting the astrophotography. Like how it's possible? Like, can we mount the telescope to our lens or cameras?
Yes, definitely. I'll tell you. Yes. So the lenses, the telescope are not mounted on lens actually. So the eyepiece through which you see through the telescope, they have an attachment ring. So instead of seeing through the telescope, you can just attach, it's called as E-ring. So you can attach your camera to the telescope, and then whatever the object is in front of the telescope, that can be shot through your camera. So instead of just looking through the telescope, there comes an attachment where you can attach your camera. But again, for telescope, since we are zooming in a lot, it's around 1800 or something focal length. So as I said, if we consider the rule of 500, we won't be able to see even for a second. So that objects keeps on moving. So for that, you must have an equatorial mount. So you need an equatorial mount on which the telescope is placed, and on the eyepiece, the camera will be mounted. So you can shoot. You are just replacing the lens with telescope. So telescope is nothing but the different kind of lens. That's it. So you can just replace the telescope with the lens and shoot with the telescope. That's very much possible. But again, for that, the equatorial mount is a must equipment.
Yes.
That can definitely be done.
Saleel sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Is tripod necessary for shooting astro images?
Not really.
Like, is tripod a must equipment that you should buy before shoot astro?
Not really. I bought tripod in 2020. I've been shooting since 2013. So I've used stones. I've used my laptop bag. I've used my camera bag. I've used my t-shirts. I've used my towels given by the hotel owners. So they must be angry for that. But of course, if you're shooting something like a time lapse, if you're not comfortable with keeping your camera on a sturdy balance, like now we are very much used to balancing our cameras on stones or small piece of bag or any material. If you're not sure if you can keep that, if the location is very windy, you should buy a tripod. Otherwise, I won't say it's a complete and necessary investment to start with. You can just, whatever you have, you can start with whatever equipment you have. The moment you start taking pictures, you will figure out what exactly you need more. So don't go ahead and buy everything at once. You don't need that. Don't invest or don't waste so much of money at once and then go to shoot. Try with whatever you have. Get to know your limitations, get to know your limitations of your equipment, and then probably you can buy whatever is really necessary. It's there are a few things like the intervalometer. Most of the Nikon cameras have their inbuilt intervalometer, where you can have the shutter speed up to 30 seconds. Of course, it has a limitations. You cannot set it to somewhere around 15 or 20 seconds. But if that 30 second is enough for star trails, you actually don't need an intervalometer. There are a few cameras which are now you can operate the shutters with help of your mobile phones. You can connect the mobile phone with your camera and use the shutter. In that cases, I don't think you need all those fancy equipments to start with. So I don't have those pictures. Otherwise, I would have loved showing you how I have balanced my cameras at different locations. Yes, Gorilla Pod, they can be also very useful. They are very small and you can fit it in any bags. But again, I bought the tripod for only reason that I'm using the equatorial mount. So, till the time I wasn't using equatorial mount, I never thought tripod is a necessary equipment for astrophotography. Any questions? Anything you want to know more about the apps that we use, or any technical part, or the places that you can plan to shoot the Milky Way?
Hey, Saleel, this is Deban. Yeah, I
Yes.
was just looking at your website, so I couldn't find the info for the Nanighat camp. Where exactly is it located? I mean, in the
Sorry?
website. In the website, I couldn't find.
I'll send the link. We have removed that because most of the like camps are that tours are sold out. I'll send you the link for our the other website, Amateur Astronomy Club. That will give you information about Nanighat particularly. For other astro trips, you can follow it on my website. I'll just put it in the chat box.
Sure, thank you.
Any questions or anything you need to know more about wildlife or astrophotography?
Salil, just one basic question again I have.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got one question from Papia Mishra also. Is Intervalometer 2 not mandatory? Yeah.
Yes, it is not mandatory. As I said, in both of my Nikon cameras, I have an option of putting interval timer settings. So where I can put the shutter speed, I can put the interval, and I can set the number of pictures. So in that case, I don't think I need an intervalometer. So I have two cameras, but I have bought just one intervalometer because second camera I generally use for time lapse. And for that, mostly I shoot with 15 or 20 seconds exposure and probably 2 to 3 seconds of interval. So I don't need intervalometer for that. So I have just one intervalometer, and that is so far sufficient for me. I'm not planning to buy any.
Right.
That's
So,
what I say. Just explore your equipments properly. There are multiple functions available in equipment. Just don't go and buy all those fancy equipments just because someone else is using it. So these are all the optional equipments. You need to know what exactly that equipment is going to do and how exactly it's going to help me. So since we know intervalometer is just to give you the interval after a specific time. If that is available in any other available resources, you don't need to buy that. Again, tripod is what it is going to just give you a steady platform to mount your camera. If you have any other thing which can do the same task, you don't need to buy that.
Yeah. So it's a very basic question. Might
Yes.
sound very immature again.
No, no. Yes.
Yeah. So like when we are shooting birds or we are into wildlife, there are a couple of organizations in India. For example, BNHS is there, which will constantly, provide us with details that what species are important and on
Right.
extinction or what is being, which is good to even take a photograph and document at a certain period of time. So is there any society, anything very actively operational in India, which tells us what galaxies are in and what is visible and what stars are there, and some group like
Yes.
that?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to tell you. So the site which I showed you, Telescopius, so it sends you the list of objects available in the night sky. So this is Telescopius website. Just okay. Sorry, Stellarium. Telescopius. So once you set the location, this Telescopius sends you the list of objects visible at that particular location in the coming month. So this is very useful. I like rely mostly on Telescopius for my astrophotography. So once you just sign in, you create your account and put your email address in. The app tells you what are the objects that are going to be visible for next 1 month. What is the time or what is the day on which it will be brightest? What would be the ideal time to shoot it? And again, we have multiple Facebook groups or Instagram pages. They tell you about the upcoming meteor showers. They tell you about the celestial events that are happening in coming month. So that is really very helpful. So most of my time is consumed in all these Facebook groups and Instagram pages where we discuss about the techniques, discuss about the events occurring in the upcoming month. We have a very valid question here. Siddharth Anand is asking, is there any specific memory card required for astrophotography? Again, as I said, you need to figure out what exactly that device does or that equipment does. Like memory card is the one which records your data. So if my camera, the size of the picture is say 100 MB and the recording speed of my memory card is 440 MB per second, I definitely need, I don't need any other memory card, because the moment I take picture, it will be transferred to the memory card. So there is no, not any specific memory cards are required. But of course, for wildlife, you need them, because as I said, in Astro, nothing is moving fast. You have plenty of time to shoot everything. But in wildlife, I generally prefer considering the buffering of your camera. How many images can your camera save in the buffer mode? Then the recording speed of your camera. Like if I'm shooting with 10 FPS camera and my image size is 40 MB. So that means my camera is going to record 400 MB data in 1 second. So I must have a memory card which can read, or rather which can convert those images, or it can save those images in 1 second. Or secondly, I must have a good buffer for that particular camera. If the buffer is not good, I need a faster recording speed for my camera. For Astro, I don't think any such memory card is needed. You just need a lot of memory cards for Astro, since we are shooting multiple images for time lapses. But there is nothing as such any requirement for speed if we consider only astrophotography. For wildlife, yes, since you're shooting at a higher, you're shooting more number of pictures in 1 second. For wildlife, I think you should consider all these points. How many pictures does your camera take in 1 second? What is the size of your image? And what is the recording speed of your memory card?
Yeah. If there are no more questions, then we can conclude the workshop.
Yes.
Anything specific anybody wants to ask? Last 5 minutes, I think we've still got.
Hey, one question. After the workshop, if we have any doubts, is there any possibility of reaching out?
Definitely. So you can get all the detail. Like you can reach me out from through my website. So if you are going on my website through mobile phone, you have a WhatsApp button right there. You can ping me on WhatsApp anytime. I won't mind answering any queries at any time of the day. So no worries. At night, generally I am active if I'm shooting. So you can just ping me anytime. So you can ping me on through my website, or you can just ping me on WhatsApp. I'll also
Sure.
probably,
Thank
if
you.
it's allowed, I can just put my number here.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, can I
That's
do that?
definitely allowed. Yeah, sure.
Yes,
So
thank
this
you
is
for
my-
the session. This was very useful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I've put, I've sent my mobile number. You can just save this, and you can feel free to ping me anytime for photography related queries.
All right, then.
Yes.
We are very, very grateful. At least, I mean,
so much.
we
Yes,
totally
I
look
really
forward
enjoyed
to
interacting
having
with
some
all of you.
real time, workshop. Let's
Right.
just graduate to that. Hopefully, the virtual scenes will be,
Yeah,
going down
definitely.
now.
We should plan one. Yes.
Yes. And
There are
thank
many
you so
locations
much.
around Pune actually, so we can actually
Yes.
plan a offline session where we can actually shoot with everyone, and they can actually have hands-on experience, so they can actually see how the images are getting better if we change certain settings.
Yeah. Specifically, when you mentioned again that Sagittarius arm is in my head, that's what I'm carrying this time.
Yes.
So this being a good time, and thank you all the participants for your very active interactive session that you joined us here for, and we look forward to seeing Saleel.
Yes, definitely. I'm looking forward to meet everyone again. So we can we'll
All
meet
right.
very soon.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
so much.
recording will be uploaded on CMEDU's YouTube channel, and we'll put it on the Instagram also, so that if you want to just go and see that again, you can get all the information. Your offline friends can all even see it later. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
all of
Thank you very much, Saleel.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.